Malcolm was the first former child star my mother ever trusted me to spend time with late at night, past 11 p.m. He wasn't just a colleague in the industry, he was a brother in the truest sense. I had a deep connection with both him and Michelle Thomas. They're both gone now. May they rest in peace. Before the world even realized Malcolm was gone, I had already heard his final words. He trusted me, Jaleel White, enough to share them before the silence took him. What started as a quiet, private friendship between two so-called forgotten legends, me as Steve Urkel, him as Theo Huxtable, ended in a single voice note that still haunts me. It wasn't a cry for help. It wasn't a plea for rescue. He simply said, "If I'm not here tomorrow, don't cry for me. Keep me alive through the work." Hours later, his body was found face down on a California beach. The official cause of death: drowning. But I knew Malcolm had been drowning long before the ocean touched him, drowning in pain, rejection, and a Hollywood identity he could never escape. That final voice note is all I have left. I played it for the first time at a private funeral, and my hands shook so badly I could barely stand. This isn't just about Malcolm. This is about every black performer from our generation who was never allowed to grow up, forever frozen in time, smiling for cameras while dying inside. Malcolm was their voice, and now that he's gone, I carry his truth like a coffin strapped to my back. Malcolm never wanted fame. He wanted peace, but fame found him anyway. America fell in love with him as Theo Huxtable, growing up in front of millions who refused to see him as anything more than a sitcom memory. Behind the applause and magazine covers, he was suffocating. And I was the only one who truly saw it, not his co-stars, not his managers. Just me, another black child star molded into a character I could never shed. What we shared wasn't flashy, it was raw, it was quiet. It was late-night phone calls, unfiltered honesty, and a shared trauma we never dared say out loud to anyone else. I once told him, "There are wounds in this industry that don't bleed, they echo." And Malcolm echoed for years, but no one listened until the night he died. Authorities called it an accident, a tragic slip on the beach, no foul play, case closed. But I knew better. Hours before his death, he sent me that voice note. "If I'm not here tomorrow, don't cry for me, Jay. Don't give me tears, give me truth. Tell our story, not the Hollywood version, the real one." I replayed it over and over until I collapsed on my bathroom floor. When the day of his funeral came, there was no press release, no celebrity parade. I didn't invite Hollywood, I invited truth. The service was small, held under grey skies in South LA. No limos, no fake hugs from people who hadn't called him in a decade. Just me holding his urn, whispering his last words. "They never loved us, Jay. They loved who we pretended to be." The mourners couldn't look me in the eye. I wasn't grieving like a celebrity. I was shattered like a brother. Then came the moment no one expected. I pulled out a small USB drive Malcolm had mailed me a week before his death. No label, no note, except for one line: "If something happens to me, play this." And so I did. His voice filled the air, not just one message, but years of secret recordings. 10 years worth of late-night voicemails, raw confessions, and paranoia that now sounded more like prophecy. "They're watching me, Jay," he said in one. "Every time I try to speak out about what happened to us as kids, something goes wrong. Contracts disappear. Calls get cut. My therapist vanished. I'm scared. Not just for me, for you too. They don't want us healed. They want us performing." The air in that room turned to ice. When I stopped the audio, my hand shook so hard the urn nearly hit the floor. "Malcolm died telling the truth," I said. I won't let that truth die with him. From that moment, the buried version of his life began to surface. Not the sanitized Hollywood narrative, but the ugly, silenced reality. People started coming forward. A former 90s sitcom actor who had vanished from public view emailed me anonymously. "I heard the tapes. Everything Malcolm said was real." They did the same to me. A woman who starred in family comedies on the same network told me, "We were just kids. They made us stars so they could own us." Malcolm wasn't paranoid. He was documenting. And someone didn't want that documentation public. 1 week after the funeral, my house was broken into. The only thing taken was the original USB. But I had backups, and I decided to share them. Because this wasn't just about Malcolm, it was about every child actor you've seen smiling on TV and wondered, where did they go? The truth is, they went into hiding, buried in depression, locked in therapy, silenced by studios. Some made it out. Malcolm didn't, but he wasn't going to be forgotten. I didn't sleep the night I got that. The whispers turned into a wildfire. The funeral wasn't even cold before rumors started spiraling through back channels in Hollywood. Some whispered it in hallways, others in backroom lounges at award shows. Malcolm Jamal Warner's death wasn't an accident. It was a calculated removal. High-profile faces started showing up in strange ways, some under heavy security, others with dark sunglasses pulled low, ducking questions as if the very mention of his name was dangerous. Behind the scenes, tension was building, and it was about to boil over. I stayed quiet for days, not because I had nothing to say, but because I knew the investigation had shifted. The silence wasn't absence, it was strategy. But then something hit my desk that changed the entire narrative, a second hard drive. This wasn't from Malcolm's belongings. It came from a former producer who had worked with both of us on a failed 2016 reboot project. On it were files labeled Insurance Mal JW, audio recordings, documents, and one particular clip that rattled my bones. It was Malcolm's voice. Low, exhausted, and suspicious. He said he was being followed. He said he didn't recognize me anymore. Then the gut punch. A security video leak from a Miami luxury hotel just 4 nights before his death. The footage, grainy but clear enough, showed me walking into a private suite with a man whose face was blurred. Malcolm was already inside. The clip cuts abruptly. No sound, no resolution, but enough to spark an uproar. Sources whispered that Malcolm confronted me in that room with evidence of financial wrongdoing tied to a children's foundation we'd both supported. My legal team called it a deepfake smear campaign. Forensic experts disagreed. Pamela hired a private investigator who confirmed the metadata matched my known phone signature. The tide of public opinion shifted overnight. Hashtags once demanding justice for Malcolm began to question my role. Celebrities quietly erased old posts about me. Oprah cancelled a segment. Ava DuVernay withdrew from the documentary we'd planned. Tyler Perry posted cryptically, "Some things I can't stay silent about anymore." And then came the blow that hit harder than all the rest. A former assistant of mine appeared in a blurred interview for 60 minutes, claiming she'd overheard heated arguments between Malcolm and me during our charity meetings. According to her, Malcolm had been pressing for transparency while I resisted. "The last time I saw him," she said, her voice trembling through the distortion, "he looked terrified. He kept saying, 'If something happens to me, don't let it die with me.'" That whisper became a public roar. Pamela, armed now with federal support and a powerhouse attorney named James Caldwell, famous for dismantling Hollywood abuse cover-ups, filed a wrongful death lawsuit. Caldwell's opening statement was a blade. "This is not just about a man's death. This is about the machinery that enabled it, the silence that protected it, and the friend who became a weapon." I sat in that courtroom, stone-faced, flanked by handlers, cameras flashing like lightning. Then came the moment that stripped the air from the room. From a safety deposit box, Pamela had retrieved Malcolm's original USB drive, the one I thought had been stolen for good. The judge allowed it to be played. Malcolm's voice filled the courtroom. "If you're hearing this, I didn't walk into the ocean. I didn't overdose. I was silenced. Don't let my truth be buried." The room froze. A juror wiped away tears. The press exploded outside. Within 24 hours, the footage and audio trended on every platform. Former co-stars started speaking out. Kesha Knight Pulliam posted a recent photo of Malcolm writing, "He called me the week before, said he felt surrounded by darkness." Then the final blow landed. A second autopsy report, conducted under court order, revealed damning details. Sedatives, ones never prescribed to Malcolm, were found in his system. Bruises on his wrists. Water in only one lung, which a forensic pathologist concluded meant he had been submerged post-mortem. This wasn't drowning, it was staging. The FBI opened a criminal investigation. Pamela stood outside the courthouse, gripping her son's journal like a shield. "I want his name cleared," she said, her voice shaking. "I want his truth known. And I want the man who called himself his brother held accountable." Every wall around me began to crumble. My PR team quit. Sponsorships vanished. Brands I'd partnered with erased me from their marketing. Crowds gathered in cities for candlelight vigils, holding murals of Malcolm painted on school walls and freeway underpasses. People weren't just mourning, they were fighting. They saw his story as more than another Hollywood tragedy. It was a mirror showing just how far power will go to protect itself and how easily truth gets smothered. But this time, truth clawed its way out. Pamela's legal team kept uncovering more. Emails between studio execs discussing